A hurdy-gurdy, but with a guitar fretboard. Can that be done? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to part 6 in this series about building a hurdy-gurdy guitar. This part will be a little bit of a potpourri. There will be an update on the wheel. There will be something about the built-in amplifier and speaker. Something about the guitar support and strap. And something about the artistic elements. This is the last part in the series about the building process. The next part, part 7, will be a demo and a show-off. If you haven't already watched part 1 to 5, I highly recommend you start out by doing that here. As I have talked about in part 3 in this series, a normal hurdy-gurdy wheel did not work for this project. Since on my hurdy-gurdy there is a difference between playing an open string and then playing it at higher frets, because the string is being pushed down more, which means that the tension on the wheel changes quite a bit. And as it turns out, the tension of the string on the wheel has to be just right in order to make a good sound. This problem could have been avoided if I had made it fretless. Then I could have made a very low action with the strings very close to the fretboard without any issues. A fretless guitar is a lot harder to play though, because you have to hold the string at just the right place on the fretboard to get a clean note. And since the whole idea of this project is to not having to learn to play a new instrument, fretless is not desirable for me. So, inspired by the bass and guitar gadget, the Gizmotron, I have experimented with making the wheel band knobbed. Then it would not be like a bow, but many tiny slabs. That way it would not be so sensitive to tension changes. I have made many experiments with different knob textures in order to get something satisfactory. The triangles on the wheel band meant that it became a lot thicker and that there was not room enough inside the guitar. So I had to cut a hole in the back and make a cover on the back side. Anyways, let's take a listen. So, I don't even know if I can justify calling it a hurdy-gurdy guitar any longer, now that it is not a bowed wheel. Maybe it should be called the Tremolo Automaticon, or simply Sir Slap-a-Lot. Please feel free to come with suggestions for the name of this weird instrument in the comments below. I am still not so satisfied with the sound. It is something completely different than what I was going for when I started designing and building this instrument. But as some wise motherfuckers say, it is not about the destination, it's about the journey. As you maybe can hear, the Tremolo Automaticon, formerly known as the Hurdy-Gurdy Guitar, is now amplified. This is because the solution with this knobbed wheel presented a new problem. The acoustic sound is now quite low in volume, same as with the Gizmotron that only works on electrical instruments, not acoustics. Like I mentioned in part 4, I had already planned on installing a pickup and a preamp with built-in effects. And I had a mini amplifier lying around that I had planned on using to build a guitar with a built-in amplifier and speaker. I now use that for this project instead. I'm not particularly fond of the bridge piezo pickup sound. I think it's quite plasticky. So I bought a transducer pickup, which also picks off some of the vibration of the wooden top and gives it a little more rounded sound. It is glued to the top with a hot glue gun and then hidden with a 3D printed hemisphere. My original plan was to mount the speaker inside the Hurdy Gurdy guitar under the sound hole, but as you can hear here, that gives quite some nasty interference. So I mounted the speaker on the guitar support outside instead and hid it with another hemisphere. There is still some interference if I crank up the volume too high, so I have to keep it below that spot. Since the Hurdy Gurdy guitar doesn't work as well acoustically, I decided to experiment with nylon strings instead of steel strings, since I prefer their sound more. I ended up using these from La Bea. And since we are talking about strings, as I mentioned in an earlier video, I was unsure as to whether the tailpiece would hold up with the high string tension, and it didn't. In the video about making the hand controller and the epoxy keys, someone pointed out in the comments that the direction you 3D print your piece in also has an effect on in what direction the part is stronger. The 3D printer works by building layer upon layer upon layer, and the bond between the layers is not as strong as it is in the other directions. So I printed the tailpiece lying on the side instead of lying down flat. And just to be safe, I reinforced it with these metal brackets in the sides, so it will have more strength to withstand the pull from the strings. The Hurdy Gurdy guitar is not exactly handy or easy to hold and play. So in order to remedy that, I made a couple of guitar supports. They are adjustable so that it is easier to find a comfortable playing position. The purpose of the supports is also, of course, to raise the fretboard to give it an angle, as most classical guitar players do, either with a support or with a footstool, since it is economically better for the wrist to do this, especially when playing higher up the fretboard. By the way, I have made a fancy laser cut guitar support for my classical guitar. You can watch that video here. As an alternative to sitting down, I would also like to be able to stand up and play. So I found a special harness strap with 3 straps to have really good support. It is quite tricky to put on though. Also, the back wheel lid cuts into my chest, so I will have to add some cushioning of sorts to it. Same actually goes with the hand controller. Even though there is a layer of felt, it still cuts into my wrist quite uncomfortably. With regards to the artistic elements, I really don't have that much to say. Other than I really enjoy playing with vector art to make 3D printed parts. I find and buy my vector art on Vecteezy, and then use the emboss feature in Autodesk Fusion. I think it makes for some really cool stuff. So this is it for the building process. I hope you have enjoyed following my journey. For me it has been both fun and exciting, but at times also quite stressful and frustrating. Anyways, now all that is left is learn how to play this instrument well. I have found a melody that I think will fit nicely. Morning Has Broken by Cat Stevens. When I have learned that, the next video will be a demonstration. See you there. Please consider liking this video, and if you want to follow my adventurous journey towards building this crazy instrument, don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.